Hello. So I am at a training I had to go to today. So you're going to be taking notes. Please make sure that you are using graph paper. If you're not, then pause and go back and go get graph paper because it's going to help us with what we're doing today. So we're going to be using a thing called the distance formula. You could title your notes that, FO formula. And the biggest question that I have, I'm going to change this to black for right now. The question is, how far apart are these 2 points? So here's our question. Let's write this down. What is the distance between these 2 points? Now my graph paper is bigger than yours is. I can't change the size of this, but you can still do the same thing. And so I'm going to have this be point A. And so point A is here, and then point B is here. So if you could make sure that yours is the same distance from mine to from A to B. So if we count our distance, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places away there. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4 up. So going the horizontal change here is 8 and the vertical change is 4. So make sure you have yours there. And if you notice, this is a right triangle. And if this is a right triangle and I want to know what is this distance, then I can use some theorem that I already know. What do you think that is? So I can use a Pythagorean theorem for this. So just to review a Pythagorean theorem, I know that I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C is my hypotenuse, so I'm always going to have C across the right angle, and then A and B doesn't matter. I'm just going to put those there. And so I'm going to put 8 squared plus 4 squared equals C squared. And then I'm just going to do some calculations. So 8 squared is 64 plus 4 squared is 16 equals C squared. Now I want to solve for C, so I want to get rid of this exponent by doing the square root of both sides. And so I should add these up first. That's okay. We'll have square root of both sides. 64 plus 16 gives me 80, and that's going to tell me what C is. And so you could either leave this as root 80, which sometimes you see, or we can use our calculator to say it's approximately 8 and 94 hundredths. I'm going to go to the hundredths place when I estimate for these. So the distance for C is about, I can take this and go back over here, and the distance here is about 8.94. And so that's about right. Remember, C is always your longest side. And so A was 8 and B was 4. So I feel good that C is longer than that at almost 9, 8 and 94 hundredths. So that's the Pythagorean theorem that I could use to find the distance between these 2 points. But I can't always draw my points. So what if I didn't have a place to draw them and I don't have graph paper and I can't easily count stuff? So I don't always have to do that. I can do something else called the distance formula. So I'm going to change colors now. Let's go to green. So we're going to use the distance formula. And I'm going to show you how this connects to the Pythagorean theorem. What it says is that for the distance formula, that you can take, if you know what these points are, this is an x comma y, and we'll fill that in a minute. And this is x comma y, fill that in. We know that we can take these 2 points and be able to do something with them to figure out this. So when I have 2 points, x1, y1, that's the first point, and I have x2, y2, that's the second point, that if I want to know the distance, then all I have to do is Pythagorean theorem it. So I have a squared, but that's going to be your x2 minus x1. I'll show you where that comes in. And then I'm going to square that. That's your a squared. That's your a. And then you're going to add your b, which was y2 minus y1 squared. That's your b. And then I want to solve for d, so I do the square root of all of that. And so if I look at the points that I had before, my x1, I'm going to give some points to this now. If a is 1, 3, and b is 9, 7, now I know that I counted. This was over 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if I do your x, and x is 9, that's your x, and this is your x, x1, that's the first point, that's y1. This was x2, and this was y2. I know that I can do x2 minus y2 gives you 8. And y2 minus y1, 7 minus 3 gives me 4. And so if I were to do this with a distance formula, without having to draw it and count it, then I can say A, we said, was 1, 3, and B was, we said, 9, 7. Then this is x1, y1. Always, always label. I've been doing this for years, and I still label until you don't make mistakes. And so my distance equals square root. My x2 minus x1 is, in parentheses, 9 minus 1, and square it, plus my y2 is 7 minus 3, and square it. And now I'm going to go 9 minus 1 is 8, square root of all of that, squared, plus 7 minus 3 is 4, squared. And if you notice, there's my 8, my 4 again. And now d equals the square root of, this is where we were before, 64 plus 16. 64 plus 16 we got was the square root of 80. And we can either leave it like that, or we can say that's about equal to, we said 8 and 94 hundredths. So that's the distance formula. And so make sure you write this down. And then I would go back and with another color, let's go, orange color is an important color. Let's go back and we can make a big circle around this. This is a formula that you're going to be using a lot in different classes, different levels, and it's the easiest way to be able to find the distance between 2 points. So on your homework, or on your practice work to say, I should say, you're going to have to do problems like this. So we're going to say, this is example 2. My E is not showing up. Example 2 is we have 2 points. We have negative 8, 10, and then we have negative 6, 7. And so I want to do this again. So I'm going to say, remember, x1, y1, x2, y2. Our first problem was easy because there were no negatives. Now it's still going to be the same process, but we have to be careful with our negatives now. So x2 is negative 6 minus y, or x1, which is negative 8. So I'm going to put this in parentheses so I don't lose my negative. Close that big parentheses, and that's all squared. So that squaring is going to make it be a positive number. No matter what's inside here, when I square it, will become positive. Plus, and then y2 is 7 minus y1 is 10. And then I square that. And so now it's just a simplification game. So hopefully you can use this without your calculator to simplify. You may need to use your calculator. I'm going to change colors. I'm going to do some tricks on here. So when I do minus and negative, I always in my head go, I say add the opposite. So that's negative 6 plus positive 8, which gives me a 2. And I'm going to square that. And then when you calculate -6 minus -8 gives you +2 also. And then I have my square root in there, plus, again, I'm going to go add the opposite. And so 7 plus -10 gives me -3 squared. And then I'm going to continue down. And so that gives me my 4, 2 squared is 4, plus -3 times -3 gives me a +9. Don't forget that this means -3 times -3. So when you multiply that out, make sure you do that right. And so that gives you 9 plus 4 gives you 13. So you have square root of 13. And then if you want it equal exactly, then that's about 3 6/10. But we'll just leave it. Either one I'm okay with. So that is how you find the distance between 2 points. You're going to practice today. You're going to do all. So you're going to practice the worksheet. Using this. And then you're going to do the front and back. Front and back. And you're going to make sure you show work. And you may or may not have room on the worksheet. So somewhere you need to show work. So all of this stuff, probably best to do it on binder paper. And you're going to turn this in today. All right. Well, there's your video for today on the distance formula, starting way back up here. Remember we said with Pythagorean theorem, this is why this works. This is the Pythagorean theorem is what we're doing there. So this is our visual example of what we're actually doing. When you do x2 minus x1, this is where your x2 is, this is where your x1 is. So all you're doing is you're finding what is this distance over here, because you can't always graph it. And then when you do your y2, that's up here, and your y1 is down here, or I can draw it down here. And so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the difference between those. So that's why it works. So let's show y1 on here. So work together. If you need help, look up some more and be great. And I'll see you guys when I get back. Okay, bye.